Hey, how's it going? So this video is about why vegans don't own pets. And it is for anybody who is looking for some insight and who's trying to decide whether or not pet ownership is the right thing for them. And so this is essentially the rationale behind why vegans choose not to own own pets, not to have pets, not to. And so it is basically that because animals are people and you can't own another sovereign being, when you take away another being's right to choose, when you take away their freedom, when you control all of their interactions and especially their ability to commingle with their own kind, that kind of a being is what we refer to as a slave. And so the part of the problem with this is it's to do with power, because there is no animal on this planet which has, I mean, in general, that has the ability to defend itself and its kind against the onslaught of humans. And with great power comes great responsibility. So it is our duty to defend them, to take a stand, hence veganism, which is about animal rights. And so, I mean, it even says on the first page of the Bible in Genesis 1:26 that man is given dominion over the birds in the air and the animals in the sea and whatnot. But the thing is like the word dominion, it doesn't mean to dominate. It has a more ancient meaning to it, and it refers to more as the role of a caretaker. And so because as the most technologically advanced species that is on our planet, it is therefore our responsibility to serve not only as the protector of the other animals, but also the earth and all of her systems, because we're the ones who have this ability to do the most damage, to cause the most harm, to upset the balance in the way that we do, right? With pollution and whatnot, and yeah, exploiting resources and whatnot, and wasting things, and yeah. And so, but the thing is, of course, none of this stuff is going to stop overnight. And so, of course, you might think, okay, well, like there are animals that are in need of a rescue, right? And I mean, so what do you do? But the problem is, what do you feed the animals? What are you going to feed it? Because like if you get an animal that is carnivorous, and meaning that their body actually requires other animal protein in order to thrive. The thing is like that food, it has to come from other animals that are then being harvested just for food. And so like if you have ever seen the movie The Matrix, it's a sickening thought to think that your entire species is just treated like a resource that is to be exploited. And this is the problem, is that like owning an animal is that you essentially volunteer into this sort of a relationship. You are a part of this scenario where certain animals are being taken advantage of. So it's like, it is a noble thing to rescue an animal, to want to take care of them. But I mean, but this is the conundrum, right? This is the challenge. And so that's why, like for myself, I just can't do it, because I can't, two wrongs don't make a right. And so, another problem with the whole animal ownership thing is to do with controlled breeding. I mean, animals, they don't have the ability to just commingle with their own kind and choose a partner and raise a family. And so sometimes they're forced to breed with other animals, and then because it's a lot of the time it's done for the purpose of they're breeding these animals for the litters that they get from them, and then they take the children from the mother, you know, which is child abduction. And so that is kind of that doesn't sit well with some people, because every child belongs with its mother or with its parents or certainly with its own kind. I mean, interacting and learning from each other and whatnot with its family. I mean, family is huge for our species anyways. I mean, and especially our parents and our siblings, you know, like people really, if anybody messes with your family, it's like that's what's most important to most people is family. It's enormous, right? Because it's your support. I mean, it's like it's your connection to it all. It's how you came into this world, right? And so, you know, another one of the difficult things that you have to wrestle with if you're going to choose to have an animal is to do with genital mutilation. I mean, if you have a cat or a dog and you're gonna, like, say a cat, after a certain period of time, it will start going into heat, and it will, they will like put their butt in your face because they want to reproduce, right? And so, in order to stop this, when they're really young, you have to either remove their testicles or their ovaries, so that then they will actually. They will be more relaxed, right? Because they don't have that sexual drive. It's not an option anymore to reproduce. I mean, at least it's not an option to reproduce. And so, but taking away their ability to have a partner and have a family, I mean, it's a pretty big decision for one person to make for somebody else. Usually that is something that is very personal, the choice of whether or not to have kids or not, and to be involved with and to have a partner, to have a spouse, right? And so, because a lot of these animals, they function in that way. They have societal structures and whatnot, and they do have partnerships and whatnot. So, and one of the things that's kind of sad is that they do it when they're very young. And so it's the thing is, like, when people have an animal, they are taken away from their mother from a very early age, and then they are conditioned to respond to the commands of a human being and to sort of exist in an environment, and it's a funny thing to put on another animal, to be dictating what it can and cannot do. And it's like, the thing is like, even if these animals, if they don't like their circumstances, what other option do they have? I mean, they have to accept it. There's really nowhere for them to go. I mean, if they were to escape wherever they're at, if they run away, all stray domesticated animals get taken into custody. You know, so like there's literally nowhere for them to go. And if they go out into the wild, because they're domesticated, they will just be eaten by the wild animals that are there, because there are much bigger predators. And they, you know, like whether it's coyotes, around here it's bears and coyotes and cougars and things like that. I mean, they don't stand a chance. So they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And so they just have to accept their existence. And, you know, it's sad because like dogs, the energy of a dog is out of unconditional love. And so, you know, I think it's easy to get confused and think that they actually would prefer their existence with humans, as opposed, you know, just because that's what they give off is unconditional love, right? But that doesn't mean that it really makes sense, and that if they had a choice, that's what they would do. So another thing too is to do with like service animals. So this is like a really challenging thing. There are certain people in the world who have, say, like some kind of a physical disability, or maybe they have, what do you call it? They've been to war or something like that, and they have a need for this service animal. And so they these animals are taken when they're very young, and they're conditioned to essentially not do anything that they want to do anymore. Their life essentially revolves around being of service to a human being. And it is sad that some people have a need for this, but the thing is like these are human problems. If a human is in a place where they require assistance, that you can't put that on another living being. You can't condition it to just do all of your bidding and not to get to do all of the things that it wants to do, to follow its own pursuits in life and have fun and enjoy and whatnot, and just do what you tell it to. I mean, that's and so it's a sort of it's a challenging thing. I mean, and even like aside from service animals, some people get a pet just because they're lonely. That's, you can't put your loneliness on another animal and just, I mean, you can, and people do, and this is what the problem is. But this is why vegans don't do it, because if you can't just take an animal and then keep it like exclusively for yourself, you keep it secluded, you keep it away from other animals, and then this is your little buddy, and then it accepts it. But I mean, it doesn't make it right, just because the animal has no other choice but to accept its existence. And so and it's a thing. So like in nature, if you go into nature, you'll notice that there are no, like, animals don't just come up to you, like they don't want to have anything to do with you per se. I mean, there are some times when humans rescue animals that they develop a sort of a bond, or they develop a deep bond with that animal. And at that point, the animal chooses to come back to the human and have interactions with them, right? But that's the thing. There has to be a sort of a reason for the relationship, or else there isn't one. And it brings to the next point, is that you don't have the right to force a relationship on anyone. But that's what happens when you buy an animal, when you get an animal, and when you keep it in a place, and then and you develop this relationship. I mean, you can't do that to people. You can't force somebody to be your friend. You can't force them to be your partner, your lover, any of that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not right. And so I mean, like, dogs belong with other dogs. Horses belong with other horses. I mean, they don't belong in the custody of humans. They don't belong in yards tied up to things. They don't belong behind fences. I mean, and so one of the other thing too is like that I always see people with animals, is that they're always yelling at the animals, come here, no, sit, always telling them what to do, like giving these commands, now do this, now do that, no, no, come on, and it's just like, personally, I've had a number of cats in my life, and I remember doing that too. And it's like, personally, I just don't ever want to have to behave like that ever again, where I'm trying to enforce a certain behaviors on an animal, and trying to understand why they behave in the way that they do, and having to like kind of do all of these things to make sure that they have all of their needs met, or else they'll do things that you don't want them to. And it's like, if you're not perceptive enough to understand what those behaviors are telling you, then you can get mad, right? And some people will actually punish the animals. So it's like, and most people are not that perceptive. And so it's a pretty strange thing. People bossing around animals. And Yeah, the thing is like, you know, like with having animals and whatnot, specifically like service animals, like, yeah, it's sad that people are going through stuff. And do they need something? Yes, but you know, it's a human problem. People need to find a way to make time and space to take care of each other, not to essentially pawn those people off on another species that they're able to condition in a way that it will just essentially do what it's told, because that would never work for a human, because we think, right? And I mean, unless their spirit was broken when they were really young and they were conditioned, right? And so the thing is like, two wrongs don't make a right. And the end doesn't justify the means, meaning like, it's just as important how we go about doing something as the end result. So yeah, I mean, it's a touchy subject, because a lot of people have animals, and they you know, they do develop very special bonds with them, have these relationships. But I mean, I think that moving forward as a society, this will become a thing of the past. This isn't something that is going to continue indefinitely. Of course, it's going to continue for quite a while longer, but I mean, you can't deny a lot of this stuff. I mean, philosophically, it doesn't make sense. We are evolving as a species, so it's like, it's tricky, right? I mean, I would love to have a companion, right? But I mean, when I remember all of this stuff, I always say, no, I can't do that. What I can do is make videos about this stuff and share my perspective. I don't, you know, there are people who will rescue animals, and that's for them. But for people who are looking for this type of an understanding and trying to reason what makes the most sense for them, that is the way that I approach it anyways. So yeah, I hope that helps somebody.